I'm going to turn my microphone on before the meeting gets started. I want to tell anybody to speak to sign in now. Okay, okay. I'm there. Excuse me, anybody out there that wishes to speak on a subject in this meeting, you need to sign in on the back and bring your sign up sheet up here front, please. Thanks, Hannah. Okay. We can have her read it. Yeah, we can. We can. Okay, good morning, everybody. It's a little after 8. We're a little bit behind schedule. We have a big agenda today, a lot of people here. We'll start off with calling this meeting to order on October 7th, 2024. And I've invited Vice Chairman Clay Mack to say the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Clay. Again, I'd like to welcome everybody out. Do we have anybody online, Hannah? Not at the moment. Okay. First off, we need to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting and work session held on September 16th.
So moved, Mr.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chairman, I'll have my mic on. So moved that we approve.
And we had a second?
Second
and I will
that.
make that unanimous. Also need to approve the demands and handwritten warrants, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go ahead and pay our bills and approve the demands and handwritten warrants that we've received for the last month.
I'll second Supervisor David's motion.
And I'll make that unanimous as well. First up, we have Scott Bennett, our county attorney.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to present a few things. Good times at the county attorney's office. We have some fun things that we're seeking approval on. The first one is a somewhat housekeeping matter, so to speak. This is a grant that we apply for annually, but as per policy, we're just asking for permission to accept these grant funds. It was applied for by our victim witness department. Elvira Talavera was the one who was primarily responsible for securing this grant, but she has secured it, and we're asking permission to accept the DPS monies to assist with our victim witness program.
Any discussions or questions on this matter?
Chairman Howard, it's just the kind of initiative to go out and secure funding to keep that position open and available to assist the victims of crime and the people who are on the other end of these unfortunate acts. It's great. I'm very appreciative that someone's out there writing grants and moving the securing that position and allowing our county to have that. I'd go ahead and make a motion. Oh, but I'll wait for other discussion.
Any other comments, Clay?
No.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion, and we approve the execution of the DPS grant agreement 2024-249 for Graham County Victim Witness Program. This is about $64,000 if I recall correctly. Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Make it unanimous.
Thank you so much. The next item we'd like to bring before the board today is approval of a contract for legal assistant work with Debbie Barnes. As you guys know, Debbie has been with our office for years and years. In fact, but let's be honest, she's been the glue that has held our office together for, I think I'm the third county attorney that she's worked for. She did retire, but based on the fact we're trying to not only replace her, but we also have some medical issues that we're addressing with our victim witness, with our legal assistants. She's agreed to come back and contract with us to help us get through the next couple of months. It's anticipated that our employee who's out having some, dealing with some medical issues will be back by the beginning of the 2025 year. So we're asking that we, basically, the board approves an agreement with Debbie so she can keep working with us and help us out until then.
Discussion on this?
No, it's not having to pay the benefits and insurance and things like that is it's a smoking deal to get her expertise and that continuity for another 2 or 3 months. And it's great for her to not just walk away, but to especially the tendency for most people when they retire is they run away, and that she's willing to work another 3 months to help the department. So that's great. I'm in favor and appreciate her willingness to do that.
I agree. Debbie's always been a great asset to the county, and grateful she's willing to come back and help us out. Be happy to make a motion to approve the agreement for legal assistance between Graham County and Debbie Barnes.
And I'll go ahead and second that motion.
Yeah, I'd just like to say we're very, very lucky to keep Debbie just a little bit longer. Any time's great time for her. She's invaluable to this county, so I would be glad to make that unanimous.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that, and I know Debbie appreciates that she's been able to take advantage on the golf course, but we'll also be able to help us out some. The next item, we're asking for approval to ratify an agreement with J.J. Waite. As you know, J.J. anticipates, well, actually, I think we have a firm date now, but we'll be joining our office as a full-time prosecutor. But over the last 6+ months, he's been winding down his practice. Unfortunately, a couple of his cases have been extended, and he hasn't been able to come over full-time. But it looks like if we do one last extension of his contract, that he will be able to get everything wound down, and we anticipate a start date in November. So we're asking for the board to ratify an agreement for continued special prosecutorial services with the anticipation that this will be the last contract that he does before he's actually on board full-time.
Comments? Questions?
I would just say it's a great to get that local expertise. He has a wonderful legal mind and an even better heart, and so it's great to have JJ coming to work for the county. And I'm pleased to approve this agreement and to make whatever small adjustments we need to get him on board.
Is that a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
And I will make that unanimous.
Thank you. And then the last item we'd like to bring before the board is a situation that I've never quite seen before. Ultimately, just by way of background, APAC, which is the Arizona Prosecuting Advisory Council, asked Graham County to assist them in applying for a hate crimes grant. The purpose of this grant is to provide resources to various police and prosecutorial agencies across the state and specifically focus on training for hate crimes. The interesting part, or the part I've never seen before, is we requested $300,000. The idea being $200,000 would be used for training and $100,000 would go to the What You Do Matters, which is a program. They've come here to Graham County once before, where they provide information about the Holocaust and basically present on ways to make sure that there is never another Hitler or another Holocaust. Anyway, as I mentioned, we requested $300,000. I received an email probably about a month ago asking if we would be interested in perhaps receiving more than that. And I contacted APAC, who is primarily the people that are applying for the grant, and they said, yeah, sure, let them know we'd be happy to accept whatever they can give us. We anticipated they might not only give us the grant, but might give us maybe another $100,000 or so. I was shocked when I opened up the award and they gave $1 million to APAC for training and various hate crime, basically to aid in hate crime prosecutions. So I'm not sure why the grants that come directly to our office never get boosted like that, but I was excited and very pleased to see that they are offering much more than we had even requested. I think that this is incredibly important money that will be put to a very good use, assuming the board approves this, to not only target what I think we traditionally think is hate crimes, but to look at all the various groups that are actually protected under the aggravators that we do have for hate crimes. Specifically, religious organizations, I think, are often overlooked as being people who need to be protected, as well as some of the more recognized specific groups. Anyway, at the end of the day, what we are hoping to do is the board approves Graham County accepting this grant on behalf of APAC, then allowing them the opportunity to put these funds to good use across the entire state. I will add Ms. Ortiz, Elizabeth Ortiz, who's the executive director of APAC, asked me if I would reach out to our local law enforcement agencies to see if there's any computer programs or anything that specifically relate to hate crimes that they would like APAC to purchase for them. Obviously, would have to meet the goal and the mission of the grant, but they've already, I think, as a means of thanking Graham County for being the catalyst for allowing them to apply for this grant, indicated to us that they want to do whatever they can to help our county individually. So I plan to speak to the various chiefs as well as Sheriff Allred to find out what we can do to take advantage of some of these funds. Additionally, and I'm really excited about this, as I mentioned, What You Do Matters has come to Graham County. We had a specific training right here in this room for prosecutors and law enforcement, but they'd like to come back and make a very public open house for the What You Do Matters program. My intent is to contact perhaps President Haney over at the college and see if there's something we can do there to open up that for the community. When they come, they bring all of their employees, all their materials, all the resources are provided without cost to the county. So this grant, in part, will help fund that opportunity as well. So anyway, I probably have given you more information than you need, but that's kind of what we got going, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So Scott, the Graham County will be the administrator of this grant, correct? You'll be doing the program, it'll be based out of Graham County?
Correct. The funds go to APAC, but we will administer it. And honestly, they've dedicated a support staff individual for the paperwork and whatnot. I say this with the fact that Julie's already had to step in and help me once, but the idea is we'll put very, very little burden on Julie or anyone else here in Graham County.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
No, it's just another great example of beating the bushes and getting the funding, and then this will be the fact that it originates here. It's beneficial to Graham County and our own law enforcement, as well as our populace and people who would attend the What Really Matters presentation. So I'd go ahead and make a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve the FY24 Matthew Shepard James Byrd Hate Crimes Program Grant Award to Graham County.
I'll second Supervisor David's motion.
And thank you, Scott. I'll make that unanimous.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Next, we have our Graham County Treasurer, Cindy Orr.
Good morning. Today I'm presenting an offer for an over-the-counter tax deed on parcel 105-17044. This offer includes all the minimum required to meet the past due taxes, fees, and interest on this parcel.
Thank you, Cindy. Any comments?
Just want to thank Cindy for helping us get these parcels cleaned up.
Yeah, another $4,000+ into the county treasurer's office. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the over-the-counter offer for tax deed parcel number 105-17-044.
And I'll second Vice Chairman Mack's motion.
Make that unanimous. Thank you,
Thank
Cindy.
you.
Thank you for all you do. Next, we have up Trey Andrews, our Park and Rec Director.
Good morning. Today I got 2 agenda items. They're gonna be along the same lines. Our first one is to accept a grant from the Ag West Local Advisory Committee of $40,000. This grant will be used to buy a mobile office unit and all the furnishings and fixings in it. That grant was help secured by our Junior Livestock Association. It'll be used by them during the fair for their auction, and then we'll keep it the remainder of the year, be able to utilize it for things like our rodeo and other activities, and even be able to do some of our trainings in there. The second line will be actually approving us to spend that $40,000, and that'll be on the mobile unit, furnishings, and equipment needed.
Trey, we'll take both of these separate. Let's do the first one first.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on the first item?
Yeah, I just had one question, and that is when you indicate it's a mobile office, it's going to be self-contained, and some people, mobile office means you can move it around. Others, a modular office can also be called a mobile office because you can move it. Will this be easily moved so that these different venues, different locations will be able to utilize that?
Yeah, so it's gonna be just a trailer, essentially. You could hook it up on any, I wanna say 2-inch ball and drag it around fairly easily.
That's great. Okay, well that serves I think its highest purpose by allowing the different organizations to have it there at their events. So yeah, it's great. Again, grant money, as long as there's not a lot of strings attached, grant money is great. So thanks Junior Livestock and Ag West. I'd make a motion that we accept the $40,000 grant.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah, great work, Trey. I will make that unanimous. Now we'll do the second one.
Okay, the second one is the approval of the unbudgeted capital not to exceed $40,000 to buy said mobile unit and furnishings.
Okay. Motion, discussion? Just cleaning it up.
Yeah, Chairman, this is just, I think, a procedure since it wasn't in our budget, to allow us to put it in the budget, allow us to retroactively to actually spend the money. I'll go ahead and make that motion also, that we approve the unbudgeted capital.
I'll second Supervisor David's motion.
Make it unanimous. Thank you, Trey.
Thank you.
Next, we have Michael Bryce, our engineer.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Destin. What I'm bringing before you is the approval to renew the right-of-way. This is for Stockton Road that runs through the game and fish property east of Roper Lake. And this is just to renew that right-of-way for a 10-year period because that right-of-way expires the end of this year, so.
Okay, thank you. Comments, discussion?
Beggars can't be choosers, Michael, but it'd be nice in the future if we could get them there at the north end. It's a 50-foot wide right of way, and it'd be nice if you get them twist their arm and give us 66-foot, so that for future, as the area grows and as we need the additional room, it'd be nice if they'd carve out another 16-foot for us. But that's a wish. And so I'll thank you for getting this renewed, and it's an integral part of our infrastructure. So I'd go ahead and make a motion that we approve the agreement with the right-of-way agreement with the Arizona Game and Fish for 10 years.
I'll second his motion.
Yeah, we better take what we can get, and I'll make that unanimous. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jennifer St. John, excuse me.
Good morning. I'm here before you today asking you to approve what I call the Phase 2 of our Verkada Security Camera and Access Control Project in an amount not to exceed $18,000. This past spring, as you remember, we upgraded our security cameras and access control points. And after having this system operational for a few months, it's been determined that we need a few additional pieces of capital hardware and capital SBDAs. As you might remember, SBDAs are a new accounting term that are the bane of our existence some days. In this case, they're for the license for the cameras that we are buying, so the hardware that we're buying. We need this hardware and SBDAs within the clerk of the court, probation, and the parks department. IT's worked with our departments and our vendor, and before you have a quote of $16,598.30. However, we are asking for an amount not to exceed $18,000, just in case there's some minor things that come up as they're doing the installation. We don't have to come back before the board. The good news is that $9,000 of this $18,000 was budgeted in this year's budget. And of the remaining $9,000, 88% are going to be paid by funds other than the general fund. So our fairgrounds, our probation fees, or an interest account that we have. So in short, the financial impact of unbudgeted capital items to the general fund is just over $1,000 that we're asking for today. So that's the information I have to present. I'll have any questions that you may have.
No, I just want to thank you for the work you've done on this. We greatly needed to improve our security and the cameras in this building, and to do this it was a great task to go forward with, so I want to thank you on that. So have any other discussion, comments?
I agree. I just want to thank you and McCoy and his office for getting this taken care of.
And this is just like a 5% add-on to our original contract, and it makes good sense, you know, because as you install a system and then you find a few little gaps, and we'll address that, and it'll be very good, especially fairgrounds, because we don't have personnel there all the time in every area, and that will help us with our both security and also with anti-vandalism. So great. I'd go ahead and make a motion that we go ahead and approve the unbudgeted capital expense for the SBITA not to exceed $18,000.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll make that unanimous.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have up a proclamation for National Women's Small Business Month, and our county manager, Dustin, will handle this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. From time to time, we have interest groups approach us about doing a proclamation. This is one that we've done several times and definitely warrants a proclamation. And if it's okay, I would like to invite the SBDC to come up and explain this, and then we'll read it in.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor David, and Supervisor Mack. I want to begin by expressing my deepest gratitude to the Graham County Board of Supervisors for recognizing National Women's Small Business Month. This proclamation carries significant weight as it acknowledges the contributions of women entrepreneurs across our community and our country. It is remarkable to think, as recently as 1988, women needed a male relative to co-sign in order to open a business. This history is not distant. It is a reminder of the barriers that once stood in the way of women's economic independence. Today, there are over 14 million women-owned businesses in the United States, a testament to how far we've come. However, we know that the journey for women in business is still not without its challenges. The courage, resilience, and passion of women entrepreneurs deserve not only recognition, but continued support. And I am proud to be a part of a community that values diversity, equality, and the incredible potential that women-owned businesses bring to our economy. I would also want to thank all the women business owners here in Graham County, as well as the allies and the supporters who lift us up. Together, we are building a stronger, more vibrant community. The proclamation is not just about today. It's a celebration of the progress we've made and the reminder to continue pushing forward. So thank you for your continued commitment to supporting women entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Tori. You want to read that, Dustin?
Sure. Proclaimed for National Women's Small Business Month, October 2024, whereas working women constitute 75.54 million, or almost half of the nation's workforce, and strive to serve their communities, their states, and their nation in professional, civic, and cultural capacities. And whereas there are more than 14 million women-owned businesses in the United States, generating $2.1 trillion in sales and employing 10.5 million people. And whereas working women should be applauded for their contributions to the workplace and financial stability of their families, especially during the economic downturn when more women have become their family's breadwinner. And whereas a central purpose of this month is to promote equity for all women and help create better conditions for working women through the study and advocacy of social, educational, and economic issues impacting women in the workplace. And whereas the Eastern Arizona College Small Business Development Center Small Business Woman of the Year Committee recognizes women business owners in Graham, Greenlee, and Gila counties through its annual Small Business Woman of the Year Award on October 24th. Therefore, I, John Howard, Chairman of the Graham County Board of Supervisors, by authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim October 2024 National Women's Small Business Month. We urge all citizens, businesses, and community organizations in Graham County to join this salute to working women and business owners. We encourage and promote the celebration of the achievements of all working women and female business owners as they contribute daily to our economic, civic, and cultural goals and livelihood. In witness thereof, we hereby sign the proclamation in Safford, Arizona, County of Graham, the 7th day of October, 2024.
Thank you, Dustin. Tori, I just want, before you leave there, I just want to thank the college and you, the Small Business Development, for what you've done in this community, not only for women, but folks in general. It's an amazing program that you guys have grown with, and it's very well received and recognized in this county. So we appreciate you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next, we are going to move around a little bit here but for time restraints. I'm going to move a bid opening in front of the hearings for time on this. So we'll open a couple bids here. We'll get right back to the public hearings for this. Yeah, shoot, I can't even look that, I'm sorry. Tough one? It didn't come out? Oh, cut that sucker open. Dang,
Should have brought my pocket knife.
dang. Chainsaw.
We do have this first bid, just by way of some background. This was a very big project that we adopted as part of our budget a few months ago. It's probably the biggest general fund expense that we have. Of course, IT grows to be more important every year, and the storage of our IT information for the last 100 years is very important and crucial. And this project upgrades all of our storage that we have at Graham County. So it's a very large and important project. This first bid comes from Data Center Warehouse, LLC. The total cost of their bid is $536,283.82. This next bid is for Sentinel. So if I can find their bid form here. Sentinel Technologies, Inc., total cost $518,275.75.
Thank you. Comments? I have. Mr. David?
No comments. It is a huge amount of money to spend on data storage, and but I've been convinced by several people that it's necessary, and because we need to, especially at our law enforcement, need to be able to retrieve the data quickly. Courts also. So I would make a motion, if there's no other discussion, that we go ahead and refer these two bids for conformity, and to check for conformity, and then with the committee that will review that, and then go ahead and upon their recommendation, have that be awarded to the lowest conforming bidder.
I will second Supervisor David's motion.
I'll make that unanimous, thank you. We're gonna have to hold on just a little bit longer for the public hearing. I overlooked an item here. It's now time for the supervisors and our county manager to give us a update, a report on what's been going on in their world the last couple weeks. So I'll start with our county manager, Dustin Welker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. With a full room, I'll be brief and just give some updates on some of our bigger projects. Our Motorola upgrade communication project is developing. Most of the work over at our dispatch center has been complete. There was a massive upgrade in our server room that went on for several weeks, and we are partially live over at dispatch. We hope to be fully live by the end of this month. We've communicated this with the other agencies, Safford, Thatcher, PEMA, EAC, and are communicating with DPS as well, just letting them know the progress and where we're at before we actually have those digital radios and equipment go live. So that's progressing nicely. It's been about a year ongoing. We knew this project would take a while and will be a great asset once it's complete. Over at the fairgrounds, a couple projects. The fairgrounds marquee sign went up last week. It should be fully functional at this time. It will be handed off to our fairgrounds to Trey here today, and we'll have control over the digital sign, and it'll be working for the fair. So that was our goal, and we met that goal, so we're happy about that. We also did a lot of upgrades on the doors over at our 4 large exhibit buildings at the fair. Those were out of necessity due to the state fire marshal flagging us for some issues on those, and those also needed to be done by the fair, and they are complete as well. We've been working, partnering with the city of Safford for some time now to get reclaimed water up to the fairgrounds as we water our ball fields and soccer fields and trees and everything else. We've been using potable water for the last 50+ years. Safford was able to secure a WIFA grant, and we've partnered with them, and they've done a really great job, and they are really close. They actually had some water flowing out of the pipe last week. There's some minor adjustments and work they need to do, install some valves and other things for us to be able to control that, but we're very close to having that reclaimed water pouring into our ponds up there to pump out of. So we're grateful for the city. They've been a great partner on this, and this has been a great project we've been looking forward to for a long time. A couple of things out at the highway yard. They replaced a large culvert over on Wagon Wheel in Lebanon. Loop Road. They'll be doing another one on Lone Star and Monteith. Did a cattle guard repair on Nash Willis Road in Fort Thomas. They've been doing a lot of patching and a lot of weed cutting all around the county. One thing that they helped tremendously on, we were very fortunate, thanks to the Board of Supervisors, to get all the millings off the Highway 191 project. We stacked them up behind Field 3 as high and wide as they felt safe stacking those up. And at that point, we turned our attention to the fairgrounds parking, and the contractor at no charge to the county layered all those in for us very nicely. So our whole fairgrounds parking, at least the largest section there, is covered with millings. Our highway department then went in there and took their grader, fine-tuned it, ran their compactor over it, and it looks really nice. We have lines painted on there for the fair, and we're excited to have a fair with a little less dust this year. So that's been a good project. Just a few updates on what engineering has been working on. Our Norton Road and Ray Lane intersection project is scheduled to start this month. CKC was the low bidder on that project, and we don't have a firm date yet when they're to start, but they do have to be complete by December 31st. So we're working on a start date there, and we're anxious to get that project off and going. Building a bridge at Tally Wash, we've also are working with an engineering firm to do that project, and those are our two big projects that we received state funding for these, so these are not out of county HERF funds. These are all coming from state appropriations, and those are moving along nicely, and just wanted to report on those. Just a couple railroad crossings. We're constantly working with the railroad, trying to encourage them to improve some of their crossings. I guess we made enough noise about Klondike Road crossing that they decided that they would improve that, and we're working with the county attorney's office to get a contract complete with ADOT and the railroad to be able to get that crossing done. We've also been working on Palmer Lane, that railroad crossing, for a while, and they're hoping for a notice to proceed in March 2025. So those are two positive things on those. Lastly, just a few things. Of course, this is our fair week. We've been putting in an astronomical amount of work to get to this point. We're real excited to have a fair. Our guys have been cleaning out buildings, setting things up for months now, or for weeks now. They've done a really good job. Just a reminder, the fair parade starts Friday at 10 o'clock, and then we'll have a fair luncheon at noon for our Grand Marshal, who is JoJo Schroeder, and we're excited for the fair. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Exciting times. Mr. Vice Chairman Clay.
I don't have a lot. I've attended a BLM meeting here on the 16th. On the 2nd, I attended a U of A extension meeting at the Graham County City of Safford Annex building. That's really all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. David.
Thank you. Attended along with, I think, most of the supervisors, Mount Graham Regional Medical Center, their quarterly partnership meeting to try to coordinate and look for opportunities to make community improvements. Attended the same BLM meeting as Vice Chairman did. Was in attendance at a meeting with where he's on the board with Dustin for First Things First, trying to improve for our preschool kids throughout the county. Traveled to Lordsburg for county resource planning session. The Hidalgo County was updating their county resource plan, and we need to establish one at some point in the future. Just trying to get an idea on that. There was a great first responders breakfast at the Legion that the sheriff was at, and many of our officers. Salsa Fest, volunteered and enjoyed that. It was hot. Safford City Council meeting, attended that. There was a Commerce Authority broadband meeting that I listened in with McCoy and Dustin make sure that underserved or unserved people are going to get a portion of the state available funds. There was a polyfluoroalkyline in biosolids presentation that and that's basically the sludge from the wastewater treatment plant when they give it to the farmers, or they landfill it or put it in the fields. They just make sure that there was a monitoring so that there's not a bunch of contaminants in it, and that was just a kind of a self-education program. There's a legislative proposal for transportation funding that I'll be presenting on behalf of the county, and spent quite a bit of time looking for additional funds for the state highway system, and trying to, the legislature has not approved any kind of additional funding or raised the state gas tax. I'm not a tax and spend kind of guy, but our roadways are needful, and this is a proposal without raising taxes to get some more money. So we'll see how that goes. And then for those who know that most people graduate at age 18 from high school, I went to my 50-year reunion on Friday and helped organize that. So we all had our Social Security cards and Medicare cards.
Did they let you in for free?
No, I helped organize it, so it was at an expense, but it was great to see my classmates, and we had a wonderful turnout.
Thank you, Paul. Mine's coming up in a couple of weeks, so
Okay.
we'll be right there together. I'll be real brief. On the 17th, I had the opportunity to go to EAC and listen to our county attorney speak on Constitution Day, which I will say he did a fantastic job. A lot of good points he made on that as well. On the same day, I also went to the Gila Valley Watershed Partnership meeting that I'm on that board. On the 18th, a very exciting day, we did a ribbon cutting for the reentry program out at Vista Loma Linda. It's a home that folks coming out of incarceration, helping them get back into our community, gives them a place to land. It's not a rehab center. It's a place they can go take a shower, get some fresh clothes, get on a computer, look for jobs, just kind of a stopping point for them. So it's very exciting that the Drug Coalition went through with that and got that program going. On the 24th, I attended the Southwest Credit Union ribbon cutting down at Thatcher. Excited to see a new business come. And then at Salsa Fest, of course, this weekend, I was involved in a ribbon cutting for Revive, a new place to get revived at, I guess. It makes you just revived. and then on the 2nd, I attended a manager's chairman meeting with County Manager Dustin Walker, and very good conversations. On the 3rd, I was very proud. I went out briefly to a brief meeting at the Search and Rescue building, the new building that they've built out there, and seen the progress. Them guys are amazing. They've raised a lot of their own funds. Of course, they got a lot off grants and awarded good grants, but Search and Rescue is very vital to this community, so I commend them. So that'll be all the end of my report. So next up, we have what everybody's here for, our public hearing on some zoning issues. I will say, if there's a group of you that are speaking on one particular zoning ordinance and you're all gonna say the same thing, I would suggest, you don't have to, I would suggest that you maybe have a spokesman for that group, and if they're all saying the same thing, let's not repeat it over and over and over again, but if you have something different, you're certainly welcome to speak. And I would also ask that we be civil and in an orderly manner. If you do speak, there's a 3-minute limit. So thank you. Central. Okay, first up, we will open this public hearing to zoning issue for Morgan Broderick.
Good morning. This is a special use permit. This was heard a couple months ago as a conditional use permit. This is next door to Fertizona. This is a temperature-controlled storage unit that Mr. Broderick has built, the one on the conditional use permit that he got a couple months ago. He now wishes to, after buying and cleaning up the neighbor, which we commend him for, he wishes to build additional storage units on that property. And he's done a good job of getting it cleaned up. And also in this, he's wrapping his conditional use permit into the special use permit, which makes it sellable. Conditional use permit is not sellable, and he hasn't said that he wants to sell it, but he would like to be able to if he could, or if he needs to. The reason for this, he really wanted CM zoning, and that's what storage fits into. But because all three parcels joined together still does not equal a half acre, and he needs a full acre to get the CM zoning. So he's wanting the special use permit to allow for the same thing CM zone allows for, but in a smaller space. And because that space really doesn't even have the space, the area for a septic system and an alternate septic system, it could not be used for a house, although he did tear down 2 houses out of there. I don't know how they were functioning, but we would not let one go back in there. So this is probably the best use, and the planning and zoning gave him a favorable recommendation to the board.
Is there anybody here wish to speak on this matter? I don't see any up here.
No.
Morgan is here if he'd like to add something, but.
Okay. Anything you'd like to say, Paul or Clay?
Director McGoy, did anyone, was there any opposition to it from neighbors within 300 feet?
There was no opposition. The first go-around, there was some opposition as to setback, but that got taken care of in the first go-around. So, no, there was no opposition from anyone at all, let alone 300 feet.
With the U-Haul going to be doing some of the same thing, it's kind of nice to have a local person who's cleaning up that parcel. Great access along Palmer Lane. It's off the highway, so I think it's a beneficial to the county and beneficial for that neighborhood.
I agree. He's done a great job cleaning it up. I will make a motion that we approve the request for special use permit for Morgan Broderick on parcel number 104-13-090.
And I'll second Vice Chairman Mack's motion.
And I will make that unanimous. We'll now close this hearing, and I'll open the next hearing for Dara Pierce.
This is a request for M zone. This started as I don't know how much history to give to this, but Dara came to our animal shelter and asked, what do you have to do to breed dogs here? And I think she was kind of told, just do it. But we found out about it, and it is a violation of our ordinance, so we sent her a letter, and she came in and said, well, I'll do whatever it takes to get straightened out. So she applied for the M zone. According to Mark, she is met all the other distances from the neighbors, distances from her property lines, everything else that's required, but she does have enough property there to do this with those distances. So this is a win in our violations, and a new business to Graham County. Planning and zoning got 0. Nobody said a word except her in the meeting, her and her dad. No neighbors, no written anything, no complaints. It was surprising because the way we found out about her was somebody called and said, can you do this here? But then they were not in opposition to it. So M zone is M or MX is the only 2 zones you can do a kennel in, and she qualifies as a kennel. She's here if if you'd like to hear from her, or she has something she wants to say.
Dar, do you have anything you'd like to say? Okay, well, come on up to the mic.
Good morning, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. I guess since he gave you a little bit of story, I moved here, we purchased this property the middle of last year. I established my dog breeding business in 2007. This has been my sole source of income since 2012. I have dogs all over the world. I have dogs in Canada, United States, Mexico, 15 different European countries. It's a big deal to me. We raise a lot of service and therapy dogs. I use this business to help others. That is my end game goal in this. We did go to animal control when we were looking at purchasing the property to make sure that I was not doing something I wasn't supposed to here, because that was conditional on the move. We couldn't find any information, and shortly after I arrived, I was under the impression that there was a complaint, but it was conveyed to me in the last meeting that it was actually just an inquiry. Can she do this here? So that made me feel a little bit better about not having any neighbors that didn't like me being there. But this is a way I support myself. I have 2 young children that are 3 and 4. I support them doing this. We went to animal control. They said, do it. And I had no idea that I was in violation of zoning. So I'm here today to ask to rezone my property so I can continue my small business in this National Women's Small Business Month.
That's a good plug.
Thank you, gentlemen. I don't have any more to say. If you have any more questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
No, I'm just grateful that you are making this effort to be in compliance, and that was very well played.
Thank you.
There.
I just had a question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Ms. Pierce, thank you for coming into compliance. My question is, and I was looking at the big map, and it's really not heavily populated, but as people do move into the area, assuming that the density's fairly low out there, but assuming that does populate, and in the future getting noise complaints, are there any mitigations? And they're certainly not required and not stipulations required for this application, but in the future, as you get neighbors, is there anything you can do about, because if you've got 36 dogs,
right,
that can, and I'm glad that they're not coon hounds, because but just wondering.
So when I first moved in, my neighbors here, when I first moved in, I went to people and said, is this a problem? Can you hear them? Do I need to do something to make your living and your life comfortable? And thankfully no one has said anything, and they can't hear them and everything. I do try to keep them under control, but they are dogs and they do bark, and I have to allow them to bark. So yeah, absolutely. If there was a complaint in some form as it became more populated, I would absolutely be willing to do what I needed to do to make a neighbor's life and living more comfortable. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Anything, Clay?
I spoke with the neighbors, the Petersons, and they're happy that she's there. So,
Matter of fact, one of the neighbors would like to speak. Would you still like to speak, Kathy? Okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Okay, shall we have a vote on this, please?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to rezone parcel number 109-56-034, 10 acres from the current A general zone to M general manufacturing for Dara Pierce.
And I'll second Vice Chairman Mack's motion.
And I will make that unanimous. Thank you. Next, I will close this hearing, and we will open up the next one, which will be for Mr. Ty Hatch.
And this is a request to change to CM zone from the current A zone. This is across the street from, I can't remember the name of that pump company, and it's across from the tire recap place. It seems like a really good place for that type of thing. I mean, there's already a lot of it there, but there are residential neighbors, and we want them to have their say. The request, I think he's going to move his business to there from Pima, where he's at. The Planning and Zoning gave it a favorable recommendation, and there was no one to speak against it, whether in person or in writing. So he had 0 complaints.
Yeah, I think that is a fantastic place for this. It's sort of a small industrial park already, close to the mine, good location. There are a few neighbors there, but the ones that I'm familiar with, they have their shops also there and do a little bit of work in their yards. So, yeah, I don't have an issue with this one at all. But anyone wish to speak on this? Ty, would you like to say anything about it? You okay? All right. Supervisor David, anything?
And no letters of opposition?
None.
Okay. I'll go ahead and I agree. I'll echo what the chairman said about the location and the proximity to the mine, and just that area is going to grow, and the fact that you've got this large parcel to the east, which no one, I don't think anyone will build on. Isn't that part of the BLM land or flood control?
I believe it is.
Anyway, it just doesn't look like it's conducive to much growth. So I'll go ahead and move that we approve the rezone request for parcel 105-51-028A, 2.8 acres from A to CM.
I'll second Supervisor David's motion.
Be glad to make that unanimous. We will close this hearing and we will open the next hearing for Mr. Larry Walters.
Okay, this request is for, it's an odd request as far as size, but the reason for that is we're trying to get it to where he can have room for himself and both his sons, but not, normally you would go to AR half acre, but we put it in a position where he cannot split more than the 3 pieces because Central has a lot of objection to the small parcels. And he didn't want anybody to think that he was trying to sell a piece off or anything. So we've asked for 30,000 square foot minimum, which he does not have enough there to make a 4th parcel. Mr. Walters specifically just wants to be able to have both his sons on the property there, but in order for that to happen, they need to have their own parcel in order to borrow money to put their homes there. As I remember, we got nobody spoke against it, nobody wrote anything, we didn't get any letters of opposition, and we did get a favorable recommendation, unanimous favorable recommendation from the commission.
There's no one that has a petition to speak, so do we have any questions?
I do. It seems kind of like can you zoom in a little more, Manager Welker? It seems like a fairly high density parcel already, and I'm wondering, is there room, and I guess Health Department will have to weigh in on that when they go with to try to put in a septic system. I'm assuming it's septic, but I'm wondering if they're going to put in a septic system and build a house, what is the proximity of their septic field to existing wells? And you know, sometimes you've got to have quite a bit of separation, and that's one of the things I'm concerned about. Is that fact, and has any investigation been made? You know, it'll fit, but what are some of the other concerns?
There are no wells on the property. They're on city water, so that's not an issue. There's plenty. There's double the room of other properties that have a septic system and an alternative space. So There's plenty of room. It had this, there's a small piece inside his fence there that he could not obtain title to, which is the reason for this. He actually has 3 acres inside his fence, but he can't get title to it, so this is the route we went to.
And the additional residents, do they have I don't see a driveway. What's their ingress and egress?
This is their access. This is also his parcel,
Oh, okay.
as is this down here. And all 3 of those together.
So they won't
the acreage.
they won't be driving across someone else's. It'll be accessing. Okay,
They have legal access.
very good. Well, I'm satisfied then. If there are no other comments, I'd go ahead and make a motion that we approve the rezone request for Mr. Walters. It's always nice to have a family compound and have family with you, and so I'm in favor.
I'll second Supervisor David's motion.
I'll make that unanimous. I will close this hearing and open the next hearing. The applicant is Vladimir LLC.
Is it Illich or is it LLC?
Illick.
Illich. Okay.
Illick. Oh, I
Vladimir
thought it said
Illick.
LLC. I'm sorry. I apologize. Illick.
You heard this a while back, asking for smaller lots, and it didn't fly. It's been back through planning and zoning now, based on the 3-acre minimum, and they again gave it a favorable recommendation. And he's here if you'd like to hear from him. This is north of Sonoran Skies subdivision. And there, like I say, he wants to build on 3-acre lots, 3-acre minimum. He actually doesn't plan on getting that small, but that would be the smallest we would allow under this zoning. And he did get a unanimous favorable recommendation, no pushback from the neighbors.
I don't have anybody wish to speak on this. Would you guys like to hear from
So
him?
just for clarification, the last one we did for him was 5-acre parcels, right?
Last time it was a 2-acre minimum he was asking
2-acre
for.
minimum. But he was putting in AB roads and they were maintaining them, correct?
They have to maintain the road, but if we require anything more than a 24-foot easement drivable in a two-wheel drive vehicle, then we have to take over maintenance of them. So we're not advising to make that part of the deal. They do have their they've made an agreement, I believe, with Michael Bryce, and they have already done their low rider crossings through there. Going to see how they work. They've agreed to fix them if they don't work, but that's, if you want to hear from their soil and water guy, he's back there. If you want to hear from him, he's there. And Michael is here if you want to. There was a pretty good meeting over the access, but we cannot require them to put the same roads in that the subdivision did. Not without taking over maintenance of them, and I don't think we want to do that.
You guys want to hear from him? We're okay?
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and ready to
I'm
deliberate?
fine. I would just make a comment that it's,
Okay.
go ahead.
Vladimir, would you like to speak on this issue at all? I have none.
No, and I don't either. I just make a comment. It's out in the far reaches of the county. The monastery they've been great neighbors, doing some fine work there, and these are, I believe, most of the future cells will be people who are interested or members of their Orthodox religion, and so things that have gone well so far. It would be nice countywide for if there was the ability for the developers and property sellers to put in roads and street lights and other niceties, but that's not the way that we are doing business statewide. So
That's a lot of what they're trying to get away from.
Yes,
Street
that's right.
lights.
So that's just our reality, and so I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the request. We don't have the ability to require anything other than either approve or disapprove it, and no stipulations or mitigation. So I'll go ahead or conditions. So I'll go ahead and approve it as requested. Personally, and make a motion to rezone from the current special development zone to AR3.
I'll second Supervisor David's motion.
Make that unanimous. Thank you. We'll close this hearing. We'll move on to the next one. Mr. Matt Sherwood's requests.
This is a request to rezone a small piece in Central along Norton Road from the current A zone to multifamily to allow for some apartment or duplex type situation. I don't know that we know exactly what's going to happen there yet, but this is the first step. If you can't get the zoning, you can't go forward. This is part of a 20-acre piece that's along Clough. It's the northernmost piece on the north of the canal and south of Norton Road. I think it's around 3 point something acres maybe. Yeah, 2.9 acres, I'm sorry. And Matt is here if you want to hear from him. You're not close, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I could see that. There we
That
go.
didn't look like Graham County?
Not to me.
How about that?
There we go, that's the piece. This came to you with a favorable recommendation from the commission with one neighbor in opposition to, in writing and word, he spoke. And he is here today if he wants to speak again. There may be more. But it did, I mean, I think the commission came down to, we need some multifamily housing and we got to put it somewhere. Let's see how this flies. So it is on a main road. It is, he made the observation that he was 3 miles from Pima schools and 3 miles from Thatcher schools and not very far from the mine gate. And it's kind of he is going to add infrastructure as far as, I think a 3-inch water main maybe was 2 or 3 inch water main was required. They're putting in an 8 so that it can go on. They're not shying from their responsibilities as far as building infrastructure. I think I've probably said enough.
So there is water there. Of course, you're getting a meter. What about sewer? Is sewer there?
There's not sewer. Thatcher's sewer is uphill from there. It would have to be pumped. It's probably close enough to do, but it's probably not feasible.
So he's looking at septic.
Yeah, he's going to do septic. And he's got a well on that property and a canal on that property, so he's going to be limited to what he can do there. He can't build a Taj Mahal.
Okay. We have Mr. Lon Whitmer.
I've been called a lot worse. From family. This is a rush to rezoning. This rezoning is premature because it'll prevent the 16 voices of the people who will live in the homes directly behind it to not have a voice as they're not established. And that should happen within the year. The acreage to the east is up for sale, about 40 acres, and it will undoubtedly be into homes as well. So that's another 40 homes that will not have a voice concerning this. At the last meeting, the proposal was for 18 to 24 units on that land. So that's what I addressed my talk on, or my presentation. 18 to 24 unit complex in a rural area to me is a ludicrous proposal, and the owner would be the only one to benefit with a monthly income, considering that the community would bear the burden of crimes like theft, drugs, drug use, dealing, manufacturing, prostitution, domestic violence, etc. These things I have seen in maintaining apartments for businesses in the past years. This would be better suited in urban areas such as Pima, Thatcher, or Safford, where law enforcement can keep an eye out for illicit activity. That's pretty self-explanatory. This acreage is 2.9 acres and is a very small area to process sewage. And at the proposed numbers that he'd want, you would think, I was estimating about 75 people in 24 units. The contamination of well water would be inevitable, and city water and city sewer systems are better able to handle such a large volume of sewage to prevent contamination. This is a case of profit over community. It is true that there's an RM zone about a mile away, right on the highway. There's also a sewer pond even closer and an MX zone right across the street. Neither one of these would be appropriate for expansion, so an RM zone would not be appropriate as well. Please deny this proposal so that the 56 future homes can have their voice heard when this proposal would come up again. You will hear a case concerning the Buena Vista subdivision and a fourplex on 4.5 acres. This case was denied by the commission, and it's the right thing to do to deny it today, in my opinion. Central's proposal is very similar, except he proposed at that time 18 to 24 units on less land. This proposal is 6 times bigger, bringing bigger problems on a less amount of land. If you would deny the Buena Vista proposal, which is coming up 2 down from now, that would be the right thing to do. Then denying this one would be the right thing to do as well, considering that they are virtually the same but in different locations. It really amazed me that that 4 out of the 5 approved this proposal. Yeah, we need housing, but we need to have sensible housing in reasonable areas. This is a very rural area with a lot of traffic, and it's just totally inappropriate, and that's why I think it should be denied at this time and brought up at a future date. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Rachel Whitmer. Would you like to speak? You're okay? Okay. Mr. Sherwood, would you like a chance to speak?
I feel like that it is a great location and a great time to approve this, because it is on a main highway, which I feel like that is where multifamily should go. There is a high demand for multifamily in what I feel like a rural area or this area, because there's plenty of room to put parking, good ingress and egress right there where there is almost 3 acres. I feel like what I own the piece right next to it, right there, that I'm hoping my daughter will eventually buy and move into, because I do love the central area. So I'm not worried about, I've lived in multifamily units. I was no more likely to steal or do all of the other things that were just mentioned. I don't feel like it's fair to classify people that live in multifamily as criminals, prostitutes, or any of the other things that were just labeled. It is a great location, 3 miles to Pima schools, 3 miles to Thatcher schools is a great location to the mine. There is MX zone, you know, everything that there is already approval for this in Central. So I think that there is eventually possibly going to be residential homes around there. I own a piece, another piece very close to there. I'm not worried about this bringing my property value down in any way. I think if it's done right, it can be a really nice area for multifamily, which is needed in this area. So I'd love to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions for Mr. Sherwood?
How many units are you planning on putting in there?
The proposal that was drawn up, I think, is 26 fourplexes, so the possibility of 24. And I don't know if you have that, but that was just a proposal that was drawn up. We have to bring a water line. We have to bring a 6-inch water line from Whitmer. When this is done, the water line is about right there. Co-op said they would bring it to here if we would develop the infrastructure. So trying to coordinate with other landowners, but we're gonna have to bring a 6-inch water line all the way here, cross that canal. There is a well right there. So depending on septic and different things, I don't know what would be allowed right there, but the drawing that we drew up was 6 different fourplexes on the 3 acres, which 3 acres is more than, more than big enough for that small of number of units.
What was the closest neighbor, Steve, in opposition?
Sorry, Steve.
It would be the Whitmers who are here.
You know how far that is? 500 feet.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anybody. Don't look like there's anybody really close.
Whitmer's also do on this 20-acre field.
Just a sec, we'll get you.
Which puts them, they did get a letter for, they don't live with them. They own right up against them.
The Whitmers do?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Anything, Paul?
Well, my, with the exception of the quality of the, hypothetical quality of the people, I thought Mr. Whitmer's presentation was excellent, and it does have some similarities. We're debating the same kind of social dynamics where you go high density in a historical low density area. Traffic is, we are going to need to do something in the future as we get more and more traffic on Central Road, which usually will increase the speeds unless we drop the speed limit. But are there any mitigations planned, such as if you've got kids running around and you've got the canal on the back side of your property, do you have screening or fencing, anything at all that you have planned so that you have a modicum of noise mitigation and privacy? And I would note too that everything around there, 41 acre parcels, we're putting, you're proposing putting 24 families, and then just right in the vicinity, you're going to add 40 or 100, or unfortunately, all those farm fields are going to become converted to housing. So the area, even with 1 acre parcels, is going to be a lot busier than people who are currently living there would like. But that's we don't have that's the zoning. That's the current reality for adjacent parcels. So so that's the question: is what do you plan to do for protecting kids from the canal and any visual screening?
Well, certainly, if you look at the canal is a barrier to this area, but I haven't discussed that, in fairness, but it would be so easy to put a fence along the back side of the canal and on the east side of the property if needed to prevent. Certainly don't want to cause or create a dangerous situation in any way. So we're certainly willing to do that if needed, put some sort of block fence or vinyl fence or something that's secure that would prevent anyone from having a dangerous situation with a toddler. And like I said, I own this parcel on the other side of the canal, and that hoping to sell it to my daughter if she's able to, and they're expecting, so I'm not worried about that.
Very good. That's
these situations like this, we have growth's inevitable. We have these comments about traffic, of course. We have safety for folks. But anywhere in Graham County that we're going to have growth, we're going to have to mitigate these problems of traffic and solve them to make it safe for the citizens of Graham County. It's just part of the formula for growth. And as you all know, this place is growing. It's growing immensely. We're looking for housing. I wouldn't approve this because we need housing in that particular area, but I'm just saying the concept of folks in our valley is we want growth, we want housing for everybody, but not in my backyard. I don't want it there, I don't want it there. Well, we have to draw a line sometime to where we are going to have it, and we're going to have to move forward and accommodate people on these issues. It's very difficult. Some are different. You can't compare one zoning to another zoning because there's always a little different issues on them. So I just, growth's inevitable, and they're always going to be, there's going to be winners and losers on these predicaments, and it's not an easy decision for us, by no means, but it's inevitable, and we will. I know Norton Lane is a busy, busy road. You have a pretty good ingress into that property safely. I know it well. I farmed over there for years and years and years. There's also in the makes of homes being built to the south. I don't know of any of them going to the north that I'm aware of at this time, but that community in that area is going to grow, and we're going to have to address it on different issues. But right now, the issue is with this zoning, and for you to be able to move forward with your plans, you've got to have this zoning. So, I mean, that's just it in a nutshell. And once you get this zoning, you may cut back on the number of units. You just don't know until you can make that step. So that's my comments on this. Do we have a vote on this?
I would agree with Supervisor Howard. We definitely need multifamily. I feel like Mr. Sherwood has bought the property, and currently there's nobody close by. I would go ahead and make a motion for the rezone of parcel number 105-44-172, 2.9 acres to rezone from the current A to multifamily, residential multifamily.
I'll go ahead and so that we can proceed to vote on this, I'll go ahead and second the motion, but and I'll explain my vote when we actually take the vote, a voice or a roll call vote. But I'll second the motion for purposes of voting.
Okay, I'll make that unanimous. No, we need a call for a vote then?
Yeah.
Okay. Supervisor David.
I'll go ahead and it's an all or nothing. We can't dictate. You got 24 is too many. I would be on board for a lower density, maybe 12 units, but it's an all or nothing. So in this case, I think that there's support from other board members, but I'd go ahead and say vote no because of the density.
Okay. Vice Chairman Mack.
I'm a vote in favor.
I will also vote in favor to approve this.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Good presentation.
We will close this hearing and move on to the next ones. Mr. Jake McBiles.
This is another request for multifamily. It's 1.5 acres on Safford Bryce Road. Currently has a single-family home on it. I think he wants to put a duplex or two on the property. It's also subject to a well. They do not have city water. They're subject to septic rules. They had, I'm sorry, I don't have in front of me what the vote was from the commission, but there was complaints from the neighbors, and I see he's here today too if he wants to bring his stuff to you. The main complaint was from Ned Rhodes, and the applicant addressed that, said he would even build a block wall to prevent passage across Mr. Rhodes' property. He does have access to, his parcel goes out into Safford Bryce Road, so he does obviously have access other than the dirt road, which has been his easement. But I'd answer whatever questions I can, but the commission did send it with a favorable recommendation.
Anybody here to speak on opposition? I don't see any. Well, yes, I do. Carolyn Marble.
She's on
Is
a
that for
different,
another one?
different.
That's for a different one. Okay, so we don't have anybody signed in for it then.
Gary,
I apologize.
you want to say anything? Okay.
Any comments?
So
This, oh, go ahead.
his access is gonna be off Safford Bryce Road. It's not gonna use he's not gonna be driving through anybody else's property, correct?
Correct. He does have legal access across that little tip of that piece there. And that is his current address and driveway. But he also could move out into that piece that's, I don't know that we want to. We're going to study that a little bit. We don't really want the dirt road and another driveway that close together, so we'll figure that out. But he'll go along either way, he said. But he is not going to go out to Marble Lane through there. There won't be any going across that other property. And something I was going to say about this and Mr. Sherwood's, 24 units, him doing 2 duplexes, that's all pie in the sky until you get past Gavin at the health department. They're going to be able to build however much septic will allow. So that's going to maybe cut that down quite a bit.
Steve, he can't use access off that, that's a private access off Safford Bryce Road right there, the little paved part, right at the corner of his property, right at the top, right? He can't use that access?
Yeah, he can. That is his current legal access.
Okay, yeah, okay. Okay. And could he put mobile homes on that now? In the current zoning?
Not real, well,
It's agriculture residential now.
you're talking about AR? No, one home per acre is where he's zoned, and he doesn't have
Okay.
2, so
Okay.
he can't add anything at this point,
Okay, all right,
unless he took that one out.
okay. Paul, do you have anything?
Just a couple comments, Mr. Chairman. One is that I appreciate the fact that Mr. McBiles did provide, even though it can change, he did provide a site plan showing the 2 duplexes, which are adjacent to, in the front of the property rather than the back, which would be close to the neighbors. So I thought that and that area does, we zoned one earlier for commercial, and so that area is growing, populating quickly, and the proximity to the mine makes it ideal for residences. I guess my question is the offer to build a fence to prevent access. Is there any way that we can stipulate that, since he's offered that as part of the proposal, the rezone, or is that just basically a gentleman's agreement and on his honor? If he's offered it and we say yes, we would definitely like to screen that.
I think you can stipulate whatever you want to. I don't know how that flies as far as that's probably be nice to get it up and going before he had to make that expense. So if it's a first thing, it might hinder the makings of it. But I think his end intention is to have it walled off and have a nice little neighborhood to himself there.
Well, that's acceptable to me, you know, to phase it in as long as it's within a reasonable period of time. I do respect Mr. Allred and Mr. Rhodes and their concerns, but they live in a rapidly growing area, and the rural nature of our valley is challenged and changing. So I don't have anything else, Chairman.
Is Mr. McBiles here? I don't know him. I guess he probably isn't, or he, okay. So we'll go ahead and,
I'd go ahead and make a motion, and that we approve the rezone and make a condition of that is that they, and I'll leave this to our, I think I can leave it open, let our planning and zoning, no more than 3 years after they break ground, that they have a screening fence and prevent access to the adjoining property.
I think that'd be relatively easy to do, and if we got to a point where we started having complaints about that happening, it would be easy to deal with at that point.
Okay. Well, those would be the conditions, and I can go ahead and recommend that we do approve it then.
okay.
I'll second Supervisor David's motion.
I'll make that unanimous. We'll close this hearing and we'll move on to the next one. Mrs. Janet Alder.
All right, this is a request to change from AR2 to multifamily residential out south quite a ways. This parcel is adjacent to, I want to say Casa de Blanca, Buena Vista subdivision. This is a 4-acre piece on which they would like to put multifamily units. I can't tell you the amount of units. I don't know that that's been determined yet. That's probably based on septic. Quite a bit of complaint from the neighboring community. I think the majority of this room is here for this issue. There was a unfavorable recommendation to you as the board from the commission based on all the negative comments from neighbors who bought into a 2 or 2.5 acre subdivision and wish to keep it that way. I'll let you go from there if you have questions for me, or if Janet wants to come present.
Applicant is here. I will give you a chance to talk first before we take the other folks. And then after they talk, if we need to, you could rebuttal, I believe the way it is, right? Yeah, so go ahead, Janet, Tim.
Tim, tell them who you are and where you live.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board. There has been a lot of opposition to this. We didn't really do the research that, I'm sorry, thank you. Looks like this is a fairly old pointer because it shakes a lot. Anyway, this is the area right here we're talking about. This is Janet and my property right here, about 12 acres. And this is the Buena Vista subdivision. It takes about 80 acres in the subdivision. Currently there's, on that subdivision, there's 14 homes currently. So it's a not very populated subdivision. The homes are on a minimum of 2.5 acres, ranging up to 3.5 or more. Several of the residents have purchased more than one lot for privacy. So there used to be about 25 lots, well, exactly 25 lots There are now 20 because of the multiple purchases, and of those 20, there are 14 homes. There are still approximately 6 remaining to be built on. The concern has been this county road that starts right here called Calle de Buena Vista. That's my address road. And it comes up to Camino de Casablanca. Where you guys come up with all these names. And then it comes down and then turns into this cul-de-sac. Right now, no one lives here. No one lives in these. There's a resident here and a resident there. Don't know if we've had any complaints from them. And there's a resident right here. One of the complaints is traffic. This subdivision we're intending, this is just myself and my wife. We don't have the resources that a lot of developers have. We're intending to have, if we can, in a perfect world, 3 fourplexes. We consider them luxury fourplexes. Each one is 4,200 square feet. Each of the units inside the fourplex will be 1,050 square feet, be 3 bedroom, 2 bath. And we're not going to be renting to lawbreakers and thugs and that. One of the complaints is that that's a total of 12, 12 residences added to the subdivision. We subtract 5 that are no longer going to be built, apparently with the current generation. That leaves 7 additional new residences. There's one here, one there that have not been constructed yet, and one here. This one is the only residence that uses this road right here, along with this one and this one. The road is built to county standards, 60 some odd feet, border side to side. One of the questions is that sometimes it rains and collects a little bit of water right in this area here. And that, as far as I know, has not been formalized as a complaint to the county at this point. If it, and when it does, we would be willing to take this area right here next to it, work with the county and make a drainage out of that. That would eliminate that flooding, I guess you'd call it, that occurs maybe once a year when we have our big rains. But it could drain right into that, make a drainage area for that, and so there wouldn't be any more water in that road. We, yesterday I went and drove around a little bit. I don't know if you can, Mr. Walker, if you can go back to the subdivision, Thunderbird Hills. It's down the road about just past that new Dollar General that's being built out there. About on the corner of this Thunderbird Hills, where there's, if you want to zoom in just a little bit, where Concho Lane is, into the subdivision. Right across the street from the mobile home park there. Concho Lane, and is that Thunderbird Hills or
Thunderbird Hills.
Thunderbird Valley, I'm sorry.
Other way.
Yeah, right there. Concho is, help me. This one? Okay. When you drive in Concho, you come to Branding Iron, and then you come down to Spur. And it's not unlike when you drive in Buena Vista Ranches, turn right on El Camino, and it curves right here. Not unlike that at all. There is a multifamily being built right here as we speak, and being improved. There is multifamily right here, or see, I think that's multifamily right there. It's been there for, I don't know, 10 years or so. The apartment's just north of, just south of that. And there's one residence right in between that's been there 2.5 years, or 25 years. Spoke to him yesterday. He's sandwiched in between the north apartments and that are being built right along his fence line. He's got 3.5 acres. And the north and the south apartments that have been there for about 10 years. There's nothing in between him and those apartments. And I asked him, I said, "You've been having any trouble with access, with crime, with anything, with noise, any complaints at all?" And he says, "No." He says, "I don't, they're fine. Haven't even noticed anything. They don't bother me." But he lives on 3.5 acres. Now, most of the residents in the subdivision that we're talking about live on 3 to 3.5, 2.5 to 3.5 acres. Some live on close to 8 acres. Some live on 5 acres. A lot of them have been renters while they're waiting for their house to be built. And I don't know that they would consider themselves lawbreakers as renters. But anyway, the complaints range from water usage to traffic. Water, if we put in an acre of alfalfa, it would equal what water we're going to use for 12 units. That's a little bit of a comparison with water. We, right now, are planning 3 units. We don't have the resources to do 3 units. We think we may have to do 1 unit of 4, one fourplex with 4 units in it. That's right next to our house. We've been there for a lot of years, and we plan on being there for a lot more. We're not going to do something that's going to jeopardize the value of our home or our safety, nor are we going to do anything that jeopardizes the value of the homes or the safety of the Buena Vista Ranches residences. There's a project across, not a project, 40 acres across the street here. The developer or the owner hasn't decided yet what he wants to do with it, but I would venture to guess that eventually it will be developed in some form or fashion, whether that be a master plan or part commercial or multifamily or single family resident or whatever it is. It will be growth out in the area. So I don't really think, compared to what we've been talking about, these are residences that are complaining or that are concerned for all the various reasons about the apartment going in, as opposed to Matt Sherwood's property. Residences that are not built yet have a concern that would be a problem. I'm not sure when it wouldn't be a concern when you're talking about mixed usage. We talk about, there was one thought that was brought up. Someone brought up spot zoning. Why are we doing spot zoning? No one else does spot zoning, and my understanding that this county is spot zoning by its very nature. So I'm not sure the complaints are based on fact or data as much as they are just not my neighborhood. So there was a surprising outpouring of negativity at the previous meeting, and we have an unfavorable recommendation of that, which I was really surprised at. So I don't have any further comments about this. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer it, or my wife can answer it. So.
Would you like to wait for the other folks to talk before you ask questions?
Sure.
Or you have a question for him?
Sure.
Okay, we'll go ahead and let the other guys talk to him, and if we need to, we'll bring you back up there. Okay, we have a whole bunch here. Like I said at the beginning of the meeting, I would just as soon not have everybody repeat the same thing. If you have something different to say, go ahead, but you certainly, I'm not saying you can't speak, I'm just saying if you could pull it all together, it'd be great. So first we have William Shrivner. You're not going to speak? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would just reassure the people who did send their emails and leave voicemails and texts that they were very carefully read and considered. Yeah. And so if you've you know, not to limit debate, but if you have sent your information in, either in support of or in opposition to, I can tell you that I've very carefully read through and reread, and I think that the same for the other supervisors. So we're pretty familiar with concerns, but it's a public forum. You'll go on public record, and it's I don't want to discourage anyone from visiting, but we're pretty conversant with it.
Thank you Supervisor David. Okay, Mr. Gordon Pike. You'll wave, okay. How about Mike Pierce? You'll wave too. James Tippy? Okay, Ron Marble. Nope. It was, Aaron Marble was, it's in here. I've got it here somewhere. Mary Andy Lorraine. Okay.
Good morning, supervisors, Mr. Welker. This is not my forte, so I'm up here. My heart is beating out of my chest, but I'll do the best I can to represent my neighbors. We have no intention to become bad neighbors to the Alders. We respect them and their want for, you know, having an income as for retirement income and so on. The bottom line is we just don't feel that a high-density multi-unit apartment complex belongs in this area. We are 2 miles south of Swift Trail. There are no city amenities whatsoever. There's no water from the city. There's no sewer from the city. If you go south of Swift Trail, you will see that there are not any multifamily unit housing. What Mr. Alder addressed was north of Swift Trail, where there is city water and so on. But that was all, I'm sure, what you read in the emails and so on. I do find it ironic because we bought our property from Mr. Alder almost 25 years ago. And my husband and I own 3 of the parcels. So I find it ironic that Mr. Alder had a dream 25 years or so ago to develop Buena Vista Ranches so that home builders would have large lots to build custom homes. And we do have custom homes out there. It's a beautiful subdivision. The Rickses just recently built a home right there on top of the hill, you know, with the premise that they would have that elbow room. We've got the views and so on. So all of the residents who have built homes out there or have purchased properties, all the properties have been purchased. Not all have homes on them yet, but I know that I believe there's someone in the audience today who came from Mesa to oppose this as well, who plans on building on their lot. We built our homes on these lots. We've kept Greg and I, the other 2, undeveloped so that we can enjoy even more elbow space. Fast forward, summer 2024, the developer has another dream. This time he wants to completely reverse that dream of 25 years ago by building on his own property, which is not in the subdivision, but butts right up to it. This high-density multifamily housing that, yes, it would bring noise. It would definitely bring more traffic, dust. There's already enough litter. I walk my dog every day and pick up litter. Light pollution, increased water usage, and possible crime. Now, Greg and I did own apartments at one point. Yes, that's an exception instead of the general, but we did have Even though we background checked, credit checked our residents, we still had vandalism, we still had property damage, we had to kick somebody out for drug dealing. You know, that's just the transient nature of apartment dwellers. Again, it's the exception, not the rule. So you can't really say that wouldn't happen. It could, but you know, we've witnessed it ourselves. As far as statistics, Mr. Alder said that there really wasn't very many statistics coming with that. I'm so nervous right now. Sorry. My husband was an engineer with True Line Engineering for more than 25 years here in this valley. He based some statistics on what's the historic city of Safford trends. So we'll talk about water. 12 families, even in this first unit that the Alders would like to build, I've got to find the statistic real quick. Greg, you might want to help me out. I know we've, oh, here it is. The population just for those 38 people would consume upwards of 7,000 gallons of water per day. And this is based on the historic city of Safford consumption trends. Those 12 families would also own vehicles. We have great dirt roads for four-wheelers, but we don't want them in there. Already we have problems with people using our roads to drive their dune buggies and side-by-sides. The road that currently would accommodate this Camino de Casablanca, it is a cul-de-sac. It does not, there is a dead end right by where the Marbles live. So people going back and forth there. If this zone change and development would go forward, the traffic, including the dust, the litter, and the noise on that road would get increased by 400%. In addition, the intersection of Camino de Casablanca and Calle de Buena Vista has a very dangerous sight distance. I mean, you have to really creep up there to see who's coming from the east. It's devoid of any signing. There's no stop sign or anything, and it does become a slick and muddy mess when it rains. So a 400% population increase would bring of course, that traffic increase and so on. The additional water use of this proposed development is our greatest concern. Several years ago, the developer was selling water to a construction company. He had filled up a pond and was selling that water to that construction company for them to spread on the roads to keep the dust down. It was a 191 project. When that happened, our personal well, the static level dropped 20 feet, and our water became very salty. We convinced the contractor to find water elsewhere because it was definitely affecting our well. So with that, I hope I'm covering most of everything. With the Alders' proposal and with their plan, there is room for more units. You know, Mr. Alder said that right now they would just build one if this is approved, but there is room for upwards of 6 to 9 more 4-unit complexes. So with that, you know, if he does get approved, he's got the green light to build as many as will fit on that 4-acre parcel. I did go around because Greg and I are just outside of the 300-foot notification zone. So the only way I found out about this is walking my dog down Casa de, I gotta think of the, Camino de Casablanca. And I saw the little signs. One was on the ground, one was kind of in a bush. So I looked at it, and knowing enough about zoning, I did see, you know, that this was was requesting a multi-family zoning. So I went around to our neighbors in Buena Vista, And I got a petition. We have 35 signatures here, all in opposition of this. And this was presented at the Planning and Zoning meeting. And because of the complaints and the concerns and the petition, the Planning and Zoning had an unfavorable recommendation, and we are hoping that you would take that unfavorable recommendation and deny this zoning request. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Brent Ricks. And could I remind you, please, to keep it under 3 minutes, or right at 3 minutes, please?
Good morning. Thank you for listening to our comments. I will cut this down to try to avoid repetition. A couple of years ago, we moved to this 2 lots here, and we were excited we were from Tucson. We were excited to be out here in a more open area, and we liked the idea of 2.5 acre lots, which is not just Buena Vista Estates, but there's land to the south and other areas to the north there that are large lots, and we like that idea to enjoy the outdoor and the rural community. I'll just cut to the multifamily residence should be developed in or near the city, where a higher concentration of people are located and where transportation, shopping, parks, and other services can be provided by the city. The City of Safford's water and sewer services, as already mentioned, ends at Swift Trail. This is 2 miles south of there. We agree that there is a need for more housing in Gila Valley, but it needs to be part of a comprehensive plan that makes sense. This plan would specify areas for industrial, commercial, and high-density housing. It is highly unusual for multi-family residents to be located 8 miles south of the Safford city limits in a rural area where there is no high-density housing for miles. And then spot zoning does not contribute to a well-balanced community. And so the high-density housing is completely out of place adjacent to the big lots in Buena Vista Ranches, and also the big lots that are all around that area. So as our elected officials, we want to recommend and encourage you to vote along with what the Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, has said as being unfavorable for that land, and oppose this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Greg Lorraine, are you okay? Okay. How about Carrie Ricks? No? Stephanie Page Wetworth? You're what? Carolyn Marble? She had, yeah. I had. Yes, Carolyn Marble, go ahead. You're ready.
I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for allowing us to have our say. And I want you to know I am in opposition to the request for rezoning of REZ 905-24. And, okay, our home was the first to be built in the Buena Vista Ranches subdivision. And it was in 1997 that my husband and I, my first husband and I bought the lot in January, and our home was completed in July. Okay. We chose our lot because the large lots and deed restrictions promised privacy and did not allow subdividing or multiple housing units. I realize that the proposed change is not within the boundaries of Buena Vista Ranches, but it will directly affect our roads and impact the peace and privacy we have enjoyed for 27 years. As they have said, the roads become a muddy, sloppy mess when it rains, not only affecting the bottom part of Camino de Casablanca, but the top where it joins in the Camino of Calle de Buena Vista. It makes you have to slow down to about 2 or 3 miles an hour, or you just slide around the corners. And the road has had to be replaced, I believe it was 3 times since we moved in, because of the water that ran down the road and ran down the hill from the top of where it joins Calle de Buena Vista, down to the bottom corner, and then out to where our place is at the end of the cul-de-sac. My main concerns are the quality of our water, the quantity of our water, the condition of our roads, the extra traffic that will pursue, that will come because of it. And there are a lot of people right now, as Mrs. Lorang said, there are a lot of people right now that just come sailing out of there onto Calle de Buena Vista and endanger a lot of people. And as we're getting older, that's becoming more of a concern. And so access to the proposed high-density development would severely impact the road as well as increase the probability of traffic accidents. And I urge you to follow the unfavorable recommendation decided on by the Planning and Zoning Commission on 18 September 2024, which, by the way, was my birthday.
Thank you. Next, we have Stephanie Page Wentworth. No. Okay. Raymond Sansom.
Name's Raymond Sansom. I would like to speak to the supervisors. I spent 22 years before such groups, and I want to compliment you on the way you're handling this meeting. It's very professional. My property is located less than 1,000 yards south of this district. And I think I speak for several families down there, and being in opposition, the same as what we've heard. And I won't repeat all the oppositions I've heard, but Mr. Matt Sherwood previously expressed many of them. Multifamily houses like this, in my opinion, should be in the city limits or very close where all the utilities and everything are available. And so strongly, the people I talk for strongly oppose this, and I hope you consider the same.
Thank you. Christian Pike?
Okay, I don't have any big speech planned. I don't have data. I don't have statistics. I only have a perspective that I feel hasn't been mentioned yet here. I grew up going in between my father and my grandfather, Gordon Pike, who's here today, every weekend. So I would go from Safford down to Artesia. So I've gotten to know the difference between what it's like between Safford and Artesia and anyone who lives in that general area, and why they prefer to live there instead of in town, which would be more convenient for stores and schools and anything in between. And it's simply because, at least in my eyes, there have been people there so long that they've all established connections with each other, friendships, and they know and trust each other, at least in the sense of neighborliness. And that trust and small community is precisely why they like to live there. They want to be removed from the noise of Safford, from the constant hustle and bustle of the city that we have here. And I understand that because I brought several friends that are around my age out to where I live with my grandfather to see that yard, to see all the flowers and the gardens and things like that. And it blows your mind every time because they're just not used to the quiet nature of what it's like out there. And if you introduce an apartment complex to that, you interrupt that sort of miniature culture and community that you have out there. There's, I mean, as you've seen people bring up before, there's issues with the roads being flooded out. There's issues with, I mean, I've been to apartments in Safford from as far back as I can remember. And while it may not be necessarily true that majority of people who tend to live in these places like that, they're more likely to commit crime, I think when you have people that densely mixed in with each other, that you have a higher likelihood of that occurring anyway, because no matter how much you background check, no matter how much you may have a good impression of the person that you're going to be having as a tenant there, human nature, by its own definition of everyone is an individual, means that it is unpredictable. No matter what you think you know about someone, it is unpredictable what they're going to do. And I've seen all kinds of things happen in Safford that I just never would happen in Artesia. And I believe that by spreading an apartment complex out to an area like that, you're just not doing anyone who lives there a favor. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next up, Scott Evans.
Thank you for letting me speak to this topic. The name is Scott Evans. I live in Safford, not in the county. I built, over the last 25 years, apartments. They are fourplexes, and 2 3-plexes. 15th Street, 16th Street, which is close to 8th Avenue and Relation Street. So 10 buildings, 28 units. And my house is right in amongst them. I think Mr. McGoy lives just down the street, is that correct, on 5th Avenue? So he's well acquainted with that. He sees that he's part of some of my building projects. I'm really appalled and surprised at the characterization of fourplexes and rentals and renters. It's just saddening to hear these unfounded and unqualified and absolutely untrue characterizations of apartments and fourplexes and such. And if you would take your time to visit with your counterparts with the City of Safford Police Department, you'll find that the apartments that I built and manage and have had zero drug use. Go ahead and check the, however you want to check. They have lots of records. You can go to Sherry Shirts, yeah? Officer Shirts? That's her maiden, that's her old name. Forgot. Anyways, check with the police department. You'll find not one instance of domestic abuse. You'll find not one report of drug use. You'll find not one report of any crime whatsoever. That's 38 units. 4 units, a 4-unit building, that's not density. That's 4 happy single family, 4 happy single professional people, person that wanted to downsize from a large home to a small home, a widow or a widow. I've taken care of 5 different widowers and 1 widow. Opposite actually passed away. They loved it. They were happy. They were safe. They had a place to be. And the idea that this subdivision gets to dictate everybody's, the adjacent landowners' use of the property just doesn't fly with me. I mean, they have a subdivision, they have their space, they have everything that they wanted, they bought. That doesn't mean that they get to also push those same characteristics that they bought into, that's part of the laws of their area, anywhere. It stops at their subdivision. The notion that a 4-unit complex can't be south of some road is just kind of like, I don't understand that at all. I think that a person should be able to operate without appeasing. I mean, you have one last point I wanted to make was you just went through like 5 different zoning cases. Some of them were multifamily, and they were all approved. And it seems to me the only reason they were approved is because they made sense and no one was there to say anything about it. So I just disagree with the idea that if someone shows up to say something negative about it, that you just change your mind. And yeah, the other thing I wanted to ask was, why did this have a negative recommendation? What was the rationale for the negative recommendation? Was it that the whole subdivision organized themselves and made an argument against it, or is there something else? Because I keep hearing this, it got a negative recommendation from the, so what's the criteria for that negative? I'd like that to know if it's just because the subdivision organized themselves, or is there some other substantial reason for that negative? Thank you for your time. Sorry I went over 3 minutes.
Thank you. Okay, we have Carrie Ricks.
Thank you for this opportunity. I wasn't going to come up, but after the gentleman that just spoke, I thought I needed to say, There's a lot of us that gave other reasons, and it wasn't negative. We know multifamily is very needed, but we were trying to put forth the point under an organized plan near city limits or in city where city utilities and police and parks and stuff can help with multifamily living. And it wasn't just a simple 4-unit. I think the proposal's 12. So I mean, just to down talk it seemed a little frustrating to me, so I thought I'd come and, I'm really nervous, but voice my opinion that it was a little bit, I don't even know the word I want to say, a little bit softening of some of the real issues. So I just thank you for your time, and I'm opposed to it.
Okay, I believe that's everyone at this time. Mr. Alder, you would have the opportunity to speak against or speak anymore if you'd like. Go ahead.
As I said before, I do live there, and I do appreciate the concern of everyone, especially that's living in the subdivision. We want to be good neighbors and intend to be good neighbors. We think we have been good neighbors. Even though I'm not part of the subdivision, I'm the one that keeps the entryway clean and the weeds down. I take that responsibility because no one else seems to. So, and I live there in that entry, so we do that. And to clarify, we proposed to planning and zoning 3 units. Each one of them would be 4,200 square feet each, with 4 units of 1,050 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. They'd be nice units. We honestly, right now, have the wherewithal to do 1. I'm not a young man anymore. By the time we get around to the second one, I might not be here. So 1 is planned right now, maximum of 3, and that's a total of 12 families. Now, if you look at worst case scenario, let's look at 3. Let's look at worst case scenario. Let's look at 12 families. Talk about water. Central Arizona Project State did a water usage analysis. They came up with about 80 to 100 gallons per day per person. That includes washer, dryer, laundry, usage. That includes lawn watering. That includes everything. So if you add up 12, the 38 people that I think that was mentioned, we'll use that number. That comes out to 1,387,000 gallons a year. Sounds like a lot of water until you start thinking about alfalfa, and anywhere from 3 to 5 acre feet to grow 1 acre of alfalfa in the state of Arizona, depending on where it is. Using the lowest of 3, that's almost exactly the same amount of water usage for 1 acre of alfalfa. Now, we have 10 acres. We discussed putting in 10 acres of alfalfa. It used to be a farm and did very, very well. We are sitting in a green belt, and I did build this subdivision 30 years ago. I did it for survival, basically, to basically sell 80 acres. We couldn't do it without subdividing, so we went through the subdivision process, both with the county and the state, and complied with every issue that they asked us to. Some of the lots were 3 acres. Most, well, all of them were at least 2.5. Some were 3 point something. During that process, and I'd forgotten all about all of this, couldn't remember when this all happened, but it's brought back to memory the complaints that we had when we were in front of planning and zoning and in front of the supervisors. And this is like deja vu. People said, we don't want a subdivision out there. It's going to interfere with our lifestyles. We came out to have privacy. If we wanted to be living by a subdivision, we'd move to town. So we don't want it out there. It's gonna obliterate our water supply. We don't have any water. It's gonna cause traffic problems. And it was really an uphill battle to get it rezoned. And when we did, because I'm living there, We put deed restrictions to where you couldn't put manufactured homes on there. We wanted nice homes out there, and we have nice homes out there. Everyone that lives out there has built a nice home, and they've been good neighbors to each other, and will continue to be. We didn't just willy-nilly bring this up and this type of a plan. This plan is from some developers in Mesa, out on McKellips Brown Road, in those subdivisions out there. We went and looked at them. They're really beautiful complexes. Same exact size, same exact floor plan that we plan on. Permanent roof. We feel that it will not only detract from, but will enhance the homes in the subdivision. We talk about traffic. The traffic we just mentioned when you come down Concho Lane and turn right on Branding Iron Road and go to Spur. I counted all the homes there. Same exact situation. It's in the subdivision road. There were upwards of 50 homes that will use that area, more so. Some homes, there were 7 or 8 cars parked there. And so there's lots of traffic. Every time I've driven down there, I was the only vehicle on the road, the only one, just to see what I would encounter. What we have here, we have one person that lives at the end of the road that will have some traffic, and we have 2 people that live on that knuckle. So there's a total of 3 families that live in that turn right there where we're talking about. There's a total of maybe 5 or 6 families that live in that area where you come off the highway, which is Buena Vista Ranches Road, Calle de Buena Vista Ranches. And this road is built to county standards, 60 feet wide. And it's well maintained by the county. Granted, every road in the county has got issues of when we have a storm, these 100-year storms that come twice a year, that we have. There is some problem with some drainage here and there, and it's being addressed as the complaints come. We're offering to address the one that's there right now, where that curve is, where the entrance to that subdivision will be. We've been to the health department, talked about our septic system, went to Gavin Lawson and the health department director. We had a meeting. We said, what should we do? What do you recommend? Here's the plan. Here's the dimensions. Here's what we're going to do. And he gave us the direction. He says, here's what you should do. Here's what we'd recommend. We're going to follow their recommendation to the letter. We're going to follow the P&Z recommendations to the letter. This will be if approved, this will be a really nice addition to this area. In listening to Mr. Sherwood's request and some of these others, we would be willing. Someone says, well, if you build it, multifamily, you can put 25 units or 50 units or unlimited. We'd be willing to accept any restrictions that the board felt necessary to put on that. If it's 3, 4 plexes, that's fine. We don't plan on, but I don't want any more there than that. Maybe 2, and that's fine too. But we want to do what's ever best for the community and for the subdivision. We're not here to take advantage of them. We're not here to say, now that we've got this all approved, or now that we got the subdivision in, let's dig it to them. Like I say, these people have been renters too. They know what it's like. We don't expect someone to come in there and rent permanently. We expect them to do the same thing as some of our residents in the subdivision did, which is rent while they're building their house someplace. Provide an opportunity for housing, and that's basically it. I would really encourage the board to approve this. Not necessarily for us. We can, we're going to be fine one way or the other. It doesn't really matter. But this will set a precedent for the entire area. If it's turned down for these reasons that were stated, I'm fearful. I'm fearful that a handful of people can say, we don't want growth. We want to keep everything the same as it is today. And if we do that, this is one of the primary areas for growth for Graham County. Our water system right now, the city water system, goes right to Lee Trail. That's the edge of the Thunderbird Hills subdivision. So Lee Trail residences that are west of Lee Trail have access to city water. That's about 1 mile from where we're talking about. I eventually feel the city will have, in my lifetime, water extended clear out to that area. We plan on putting 1 well in per unit, so 4 residences will have access to 1 well, no more. If we build a second one, it will have its own well. We've talked to hydrologists. We have plenty of really good water at 200 feet, and that's where we plan on going. There will be redundancies if these wells go out, wells connected to well. So, and this is a decision that was the free country. If residences don't want to live in an apartment that's hooked to a well and a septic, they won't. If they do, they will, but it's their choice. As long as we comply with county regulations and health department regulations, which we fully intend to do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, that's everyone, I believe, that signed up, wanted to speak for and against. Okay, board. Mr. David, do you have any comments, questions?
Well, yeah, the process is everyone had a chance that wanted to, and the process works. I had a couple of concerns. The overarching is how do you balance private property rights versus the public or the greater good, and what is the public or greater good? And so that's something I think that we struggle with just about every zoning issue. Spot zoning, a comment was made about spot zoning. It'll be great when our county does have an updated master plan and provides better guidance along with our planning and zoning ordinances. My major concerns, specific concerns, are the fact that there's a subdivision that was a low density subdivision, and the same owners that promoted the low density subdivision and that vision of a rural, just the rural lifestyle is proposing just adjacent to it and he has property rights to do what he wants to with his property, but I feel like the existing residents feel like there's been that it's not a completely kosher, I guess is a good way to describe it. If I were going to develop the property, and I'm not putting conditions or stipulations, but one of the things is the traffic. If I were going to install 12 new homes, I'd definitely put the traffic on the highway and not impact with the noise, the dust, and the congestion along an existing subdivision road. I would, in a perfect world, I would see a buffer between the multifamily and the subdivision to give them the privacy and not impact their lifestyle, and along with some screening, visual screening of some sort. So then you've got 3 wells and probably 2 or 3 septic systems, and the septic well field is proposed for that little narrow area there. I know on the map it looks much smaller than it is, but still those, when you've got septic systems in the vicinity of wells, then there's the opportunity for contamination, and I don't have, and I don't think our health department has anything other than an educated guess on, because of the subsurface flows and the morphology of the ground. Is it, or will it, or won't it contaminate? And that's a problem when it comes to E. coli. So in respect to Mr. Alder, the Alder family, great family. The subdivision was great. I just really am very concerned about the impacts on a really nice subdivision, and think that they could have coexisted, but I would have done it differently with a buffer and different traffic flow. So those are my concerns, and then I'll go ahead and vote. I've already, pretty much explained my position, so I'll pass it on.
I agree with a lot of what Paul said, and I appreciate everybody's comments. I too have issues with the no city water, the septic systems, the dirt roads. There's a lot of what ifs. I also struggle with the fact that we sold people 2-acre ranchettes so that they could live remotely, and now all of a sudden the same person wants to put an apartment complex next to them. I understand their frustration. I personally live on the outskirts of town on a parcel that's away from everybody. I do have growth coming up around me. Do I like it? No. But I also can't afford to buy all their property either. But in this particular situation, because it's the same owner, and I feel like I kind of feel like they were misled. 25 years later, we change our mind and we want to build something different. Therefore, I would have to vote against this, and I would make a motion. Is it okay with you if I make a motion, John?
Sure.
I would make a motion to deny the request to rezone parcel number 106-29-105, 4.33 acres from agriculture residential to multifamily residential.
Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and second Vice Chairman Mack's motion.
Okay, I have a few words to say here. Again, growth in places is always a problem, always winners and losers. My vote really doesn't matter at this point, but I will say private property, people buy private property and they intend to do something with it. This is kind of a unique, different situation. As others we've heard, the intent to stay 2.5 acres is very well received, that's what the people bought things for out there. So I won't prolong this any longer, but anyway, I'll make it unanimous. Thank you, guys. We will close this one and go on to the final, last one.
Mr. Chairman, for those who were here just for that last hearing, it won't hurt our feelings if you vacate the room. We've got one more hearing to do, so
yeah,
your time is valuable.
Okay, we'll now close that hearing and move on to our next with the Frank and Karen Fox zoning change.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead with rezoning 908-24. Let me get my eyes on. Parcel number 105-46027B, 2.7 acres. Request is rezoned from current A to residential recreation zone to allow the applicants to operate a business at their location. Applicants Karen and Frank Fox. This is south of Central Road, kind of between the highway, railroad tracks, and Central Cemetery Road. This is the result of a zoning issue. They were sent a letter asked to get in compliance with their bed and breakfast. We did not know there was more than a bed and breakfast going on there. I got to qualify something our secretary put into the last zoning application, which didn't belong there, was for a wedding venue, which I believe she got off of Facebook, is where she found that, and that had not been said nor conveyed to Mark Kavanaugh when the Foxes came in and talked to us. So it is our opinion that this zoning request does not cover a wedding venue. It is simply for bed and breakfast, and that is based on the wording of the residential recreation. The zoning that was given to the Star Barn, which is where that piece was copied and pasted from, is commercial general. That's the zone that they would need in order to operate the wedding venue. And so this application got a favorable recommendation from the commission, which basically there was some comments made about, we know there's some parking issues, and they kind of left that to you to figure out. But the bed and breakfast is what we're talking about, as far as I'm understanding, and the wedding venue is off the table at this point, and they may choose to come back for that at a later date, but they would have to make some alterations to their parking situation in order to qualify for that. So we'll go from there. They're here if you'd like to hear from them. And
so let me understand, we're hearing just the bed and breakfast. That's what this.
Well, that's all this zoning covers, is guest
cover.
ranches and bed and breakfast. It does not cover a wedding venue.
Okay. We have a few people that wishes to speak. Mr. Brent Payne. Oh, applicant. Where's the applicant? You go ahead and speak first, ma'am. I'm sorry. It's been a long day.
Thank you. While it is addressing the bed and breakfast, the formal name of our business that we own and operate is the Leighton House Bed and Breakfast and Reunion Venue. And so we had smaller, more intimate events that we were experimenting with, but we're capped because it's a historical property. There's not a lot of room that you can expand for these massive events that the complaints raised for the rights of the potential owners for the surrounding land. And so where I have been operating that, and that has been our revenue and our income, as a more intimate reunion venue in addition to the bed and breakfast. Most times it's been related to those that are boarding in those rooms that have a smaller shower. We did try a smaller wedding event, but I go, when we're talking numbers, it doesn't at all equate, I guess, the level of the Star Barn. Because we're residents that live there as well, it's well managed and supervised to remain smaller and more intimate. But it's also been the means whereby we have put the bed and breakfast on the map and set ourselves apart from all the 30 Airbnbs that I had asked about the last meeting. Are they then required to rezone their property if their property is income potential through the Airbnb? So what sets our business apart is those smaller, intimate, a smaller, intimate venue that has helped serve our community and has helped provide opportunities for the chamber to meet, for guests of the chamber coming in, and we've been able to bump some of that revenue towards Safford and use those events to help marry a lot of small businesses that have also benefited, and that ripple effect is felt. It's felt from the minute we got notification and had to cancel contracts. It's going to be felt as we reapply, and so I'm losing a lot of revenue throughout this process. And to only operate as a bed and breakfast would hurt our income substantially. But that's what I have to say.
Any questions for?
Questions if you have.
So we aren't asking for zoning for just a bed and breakfast, or we are? Correct?
For today.
If it is exclusively for that, then I'll need some clarification on a maximum of a group if it's associated with the guests of the B&B. So I'm not sure where I can and cannot operate regardless of how we zone. So I have those questions.
Steve, can you help answer them? The way I see it, it's just a bed and breakfast is what we're talking about.
this zoning covers a bed and breakfast.
Not an event
Commercial
venue.
general covers the venue that allows for a lot of parking, a lot of large assemblages of people is what it says. I don't know that we have a definition of what's a large assemblage and a small assemblage, but if they can't all sleep there at night, it's probably too many. If they can't park on the property, that's probably too many. That's an opinion, though. I don't have anything in writing that I mean, that's one of those things we got to fix when we redo our ordinance. Because there's, bed and breakfasts and wedding venues didn't exist when they wrote this in 1969, and it's not been encompassed.
How many parking spaces do you have?
We have 7, parking?
Parking spaces.
Well, we were nervous about even calling an activity to see how many we could put in there and not further upset the neighbors to try and logistically measure that. But, I lost my thought. With the parking issue, because it was just in front of our house and opposite the side of the road, that was the maximum we had, and we learned that was too many. But we did have other small businesses offer to shuttle in and offer to have people park on the opposite side of the highway at Shelby Cakes, but it also complemented those small businesses where Elite Rides offered and said, we'll shuttle anybody in. If there hasn't been a problem and you have a cap on your numbers or a condition, and it's associated with that B&B, I do need a clarifying number or the max we could fit in a room. You go, is that by Airbnb standard, or is that by, if you're gonna have a family reunion, how many of your family are you gonna put in a bedroom? You're gonna use that bed, you're gonna put a couple cots on the floor, and so there's gray area, and I wanna operate on a level of integrity that's acceptable to you guys as well as to our neighbors, and I don't know how to do that.
Well, I think with the bed and breakfast, you're certainly limited with how many people can come, so you could not have a venue there in any way, shape, or form with this type of zoning. So for as far as your bed and breakfast would go, you would only, how many people would sleep in this bed and breakfast? Would it accommodate 7?
Well, we have 7 rooms.
7 rooms, so.
And 4 bathrooms. And so I go, we've had a reunion there of 30 in-house, and that was too many. But we've also had guests that were local because they exceeded a lot of our demographic are returning family members that are coming for fair and for Christmas and whatnot that exceed the family's home of origin. And so we're overflow. And then some come to the house to be with their family in those rooms to have an event because there isn't a venue or because the parks were full or because the women's club was occupied. And so it's been that intimate pairing, but it would severely restrict that and even hurt the bed and breakfast side of it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but with that being said, a bed and breakfast does not allow for a venue or an event with this zoning. So you couldn't have an event. I guess I don't see a family reunion. Is that an event? How many people's gonna be there? I don't know. I don't understand that
Or
part.
catered dinners.
Catered dinner, whatever, but with 7 rooms, that's quite a few people, 4 bathrooms, if you can't accommodate the parking. But the issue right now is we're talking about just a bed and breakfast, period.
And I can't accommodate that parking for that capacity.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I'll go ahead and wait till after the, for a few comments.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions?
You'll get another chance here in a sec.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. Brent Payne?
Good morning. I'd like to acknowledge it's been a long morning, so I'm going to keep it really brief. My name is Brent Payne. My wife is Carolyn Layton, and we reside on a part-time basis in Central. I've written to you on 2 different occasions, so I think I'm not going to rehash everything that's there. I think I've stated what I wanted to state. I wanted to give a little context for those who are present and for you as you make your decision on this and potential future uses relating to this property. My wife's a direct descendant of Harry and Emma Layton, who built this home located, which is now called the Layton House, located at 93 West Central Road. This pioneer couple moved into this home, interestingly, on Thanksgiving Day in the year 1900. And they were pursuing a dream of having their home in an environment where they could raise their children and teach them good values. Interesting fact is they were gifted 10 acres in Thatcher by Harry's father, Christopher Layton, who developed Thatcher, and decided not to build there because there was a saloon coming in next door, and they instead moved and built this beautiful home in Central. My wife grew up in the home next door, which sits on 4.5 acres at 5675 West Central Road, and we spent a lot of time there from 2019 to 2023 maintaining the property and providing care for Carolyn's mother. Following the passing of her mother, the property was sold to Layton Legacy LLC, which is an entity owned by Kevin and Laurie Clough. I think Kevin's going to speak briefly. Because of Carolyn's connections to her heritage and family in Central, she and I are currently purchasing a 35-acre property south and east of this with the intent to keep it as a farm for a long time. It does lie within the 300-foot area of this property. During the past several years, we have seen and greatly appreciated the hard work of the Foxes on the property to bring it back to a standard that it deserves, and we recognize that maintaining these historic homes is a labor of love. We do believe that all citizens should have the right to pursue the American dream. That includes them and everyone else, so long as that is within appropriate land use regulations that ensure the quiet enjoyment of all parties, including the surrounding neighbors. As you're aware, following the ambiguity and discussion of a wide range of venue-type uses at the Planning and Zoning Commission, which I was not able to attend but saw afterwards, we have had considerable communication with Mr. McGoy and with Mr. Welker regarding the Graham County zoning code in this RE zone specifically. They've communicated the RE zone will allow the Foxes to operate a bed and breakfast in the property. We have likewise been assured the RE zone does not allow for other for-profit commercial venue-type activities to be operated within this zoning district. Because of these assurances and the desire of the surrounding owners as the area to continue as a place for families to enjoy the residential country environment, we're supportive of a zoning change or issuance of a special use permit to the Foxes to operate a bed and breakfast on the property. We likewise would state at this time that we're opposed to any future rezoning for commercial in this area because of the nature of the property being surrounded by residential and open space, and therefore, for all the reasons stated, traffic, parking, noise, light, and so forth, it's really not an appropriate future use, which is not on the table today, but wanted to go on the record. So thank you for your time, and with that, I'll yield back.
Thank you. Next, Kevin Clough.
Thank you. I'm Kevin Clough. My wife and I own the two residences immediately to the east of that. It's just shown there, yeah. And we are actually living in one of those homes as our primary residence. We take a slightly different issue from Brent. We do oppose the zoning change. It seems like the desired bed and breakfast could be allowed within the current A zoning if a conditional use permit is granted. There are no wedding venues, as we've heard, or other commercial public events permitted with either the A or the RE zoning. If we're not mistaken, the RE zoning doesn't really add substantial uses, and even in some cases seems ambiguous. Phrases in the zoning code under guest ranch include a list of sort of benign uses, and then they say they're not limited to, those uses. It also says that facilities are intended to be used primarily by guests. We express our concern that future board members may see the property use limits differently than today, and really it's the future that we're worried about. Because the zoning designation is attached to the property and not the owners, it becomes a permanent change that passes on to future owners. We just haven't really heard a clear rationale as to the benefits to the applicants or the community of the proposed RE zoning change. Without that, we see the default should be just the current A zoning with a conditional use permit. New water lines, as we know, have been added to the area and also add potential for more development and nice homes to be built. And we believe that the RE does not necessarily conducive with the neighborhood and may impact the future. We believe that keeping the zoning as it currently stands and adding a special use permit is the best way to go. So we urge a vote to deny the proposed zoning request. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more, and LeVar Fox.
Mr. Howard, Mr. Clark, Mr. David, Mr. Welker, thank you for your time. My first name is Frank. I go by LeVar. For some reason, society wants us to all go by our first names, but not all of us do that. I am also a co-owner. I'm also a disabled veteran. I got my eyes set on the American dream, just like anybody else does. We've had a few events out there that have taught us some lessons. One of them was a wedding that had approximately 150 people, and we decided that was, well, it might have been a little more than that, and we decided that was too many. This hearing is for the bed and breakfast. One of the things we've learned through the bed and breakfast process is that it's either feast or famine. I currently rely on my VA disability. I rely on my military pension and my civil service pension. And this needs to be supplemented to keep a home like this going. We currently have a barn that's in pretty rickety shape. We were hoping that we could try to somehow get that taken care of, and the only way that we have to do that is try to earn the money for it. That's one of the reasons we were hoping to do these venues in the future. We do have some things that we have to overcome, such as parking. As my wife mentioned earlier, we've got some ideas that we're going to be chasing down before, we hope that this will be approved, and if not, we're still going to try to apply that will allow us to do venues in the future. But they're going to be much smaller and not on the same scale as some of the local ones around us, because our property just can't take that, and we don't want to burden our neighbors with all kinds of that either. We just want to make sufficient to be able to live and to be able to keep this property up. We did have a hocus pocus party there a couple of years ago for Halloween. We never received one complaint. We always shut things down at 10 o'clock. I have really good neighbors that I really love. I grew up with them. I grew up in Central. I would expect them, if they had a problem with what was going on at the time, to come and knock on my door and give me a chance to settle it. And I'll even help them call the cops if it's out of hand. But we do have a vision for the future. Kevin mentioned something that he mentioned the potential use for the future, for future owners. I did ask this question to the planning and zoning and found out that, you know, if we sold out, that could be changed back. It's not gonna, it doesn't have to stay that way. You just have to go through the same process we're going through right now in order to change it back. So it's not a forever thing. And it feels like we're getting the shackles put on us with a comment such as that. You know, I don't think they meant to, but when you try to put a stipulation in there that, what about future use? Well, we're living here right now. We're trying to make do with what we've got. We're trying to build on it. We're trying to make it better. We're trying to improve it. And we really hope that we can keep those shackles off of us so that we can do that. It is a love of labor and it's a love of expense. And that's why we plan to, even after this, no matter what the outcome, try to pursue an event in the future to be able to do events that can help us pay for the improvements we need to make to that property and want to make to that property for the benefit of ourselves and our neighbors. Again, please don't put in your mind, and this might be the comment for the future meetings, but for the benefit of my neighbors, this isn't something that we are looking to have events at every weekend, maybe once a month, only in the spring and only in the fall, not during the summer months. And we do have some problems we plan on overcoming before we reapply for the next zoning change, because we do plan on doing that regardless of the outcome here. I want to thank you for your time and for your attention, and hope that you pass the zoning change. Thank you for your time.
That does it with all the speakers. Ms. Fox, would you like to make any further comments? Okay. Shall we deliberate? Mr. David.
I appreciate the work that our P&Z has done. This whole issue came to the forefront because of the need to come into compliance, because it's a commercial. It was a commercial venture, and it wasn't zoned for it. So appreciate the Foxes being willing to apply for this and to follow the guidance of P&Z and asking them to apply for rezone so that they could be in compliance and not end up with crossways. With that said, I am a great supporter of historic preservation. There's very few of our legacy homes that are left, and I love the idea of remodeling and keeping that for future. Again, free enterprise and public or private property rights versus the public good. We're only looking at the rezone to allow for the venue, even though for a venue for a bed and breakfast, and not as a family reunions or weddings, large ones. We do have some work to do in stipulations. I saw online that there are 3 notable wedding venues and for big gatherings. They call them micro venues in the Mesa area. The Wright House is one of them. You know, those are, and they're all very well thought of and highly desirable. So I'm thinking that this is could be very similar to that for people, because a lot of people have roots here in our valley. And so I have concerns about the future use of it for reunions and weddings, but I think that the process with parking and visual screening and maybe other mitigations, that is a possibility. I wouldn't rule it out, but it's got to come up to you know, to be reasonable and not impose a hardship on the existing people. Those they tend not to be terribly busy. You know, usually spring and fall, and in the hotter and colder months, it's spotty. But yeah, I like the idea of I love the idea of historic preservation. So I'm in favor of the rezone for RE, rather than a conditional use permit, and they can downzone. Someone can downzone in the future if they just wanted to have a beautiful home and not could care less in purchase in the future and could care less about the about running a business out of it. So those are my thoughts, Mr. Chairman. And I am appreciate Mr. Payne's comments and his professional briefs. I thought I was dealing with a lawyer, looking for a PLC or some other kind of attorney, initials after his name, and appreciate Mr. Clough's comments too. Very well done.
Mr. Matt, you have anything to say?
Not a lot. I agree with everything Paul said. I am in favor of the rezone for the bed and breakfast. I do have concerns with future events due to parking. I think that's something that's gonna have to be figured out before that can happen. I appreciate the fact that you guys have restored and taken care of that old home. I've drove by it. You guys have done a beautiful job. It's a beautiful place. That's all I really have.
Steve, a quick question. Mr. Clough mentioned that it could stay in the same zoning A and the bed and breakfast would be okay. Is that correct?
I would have to do a lot of deep digging to find that out, but I don't think so.
Okay, that's all I need to know on that then. Yeah, as long as this venue is bread and breakfast, I'm certainly for it. I just think if they came back and wanted to do the venue, they have a lot of work to do. So that's in their ballpark. I appreciate everyone who's been here, been very professional, and let's go ahead and vote on this and get going. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the rezone for Arizona parcel number 105-46-027B for 2.7 acres from current A general to RE residential recreation for Frank and Karen Fox.
I'll go ahead and second our Vice Chairman.
I will make that unanimous. We made it.
Thank you.
Is there any call to the public here? I don't see any, so we will be adjourned. Thank you all for your time. Whew.